Tell me, something doesn't feel off.
Who are you? It's me, Jim Carrey. No, you look different. Your eyes are different. You don't even talk the same.
There are moments in Hollywood that feel strange. Not just gossip strange, not just rumor strange. I'm talking about that deep, uncomfortable kind of strange that makes you pause a video and replay it again. That kind of strange is exactly what people felt when Joe Rogan sat back in his chair, looked straight at his guest, and said something that hit like a brick. They don't always destroy you. Sometimes they replace you. He wasn't laughing. He wasn't doing a bit. The room felt heavy.
Tonight, to blow the lid off it, to be the whistleblower. I'm sick and tired of the secrets and the lies. It is the secret symbol of the Illuminati, and you're a part of it.
And the name that kept circling that conversation, Jim Carrey. Now, before you roll your eyes or click away, stay with me, because this isn't about wild theories pulled from nowhere. This is about patterns. It's about changes. It's about a man who once shook Hollywood with fearless energy and then slowly became someone unrecognizable. Joe Rogan didn't just expose something. What he did was ask questions most people are too scared to ask. And what nobody expected was how many people quietly agreed. To understand why this even matters, you have to go back, way back, before the whispers, before the silence, before the blue eyes and the calm smile.
They love the taste of human flesh and they drink human blood.
Jim Carrey wasn't just a comedian, he was a force of nature. He grew up poor in Canada, living in a van with his family at one point. His father lost his job, and young Jim had to drop out of school to help support everyone. Imagine that, a teenager working nights as a janitor, dreaming of stages and bright lights, not knowing if any of it would ever happen. But he believed. He wrote himself a $10 million check for acting services rendered and dated it for the future. That wasn't ego, that was desperation mixed with faith. And somehow, against all odds, it worked.
All you need is a blood transfusion from the pack, and you reverse aging.
When Jim exploded into Hollywood in the 1990s, it wasn't gradual. It was an earthquake. Films like Ace Ventura: Pet Detective and The Mask didn't just make money, they created a new kind of comedy. His face moved in ways no other actors did. His body bent like rubber. He wasn't performing jokes, he became the joke, the chaos, the magic. Then came The Truman Show, and that's where things got deeper. That movie wasn't just entertainment, it was about control, about a man whose entire life was manipulated without him knowing, about cameras everywhere, about a hidden system pulling strings. And the scary part?
Well, I'm retiring. Yeah, probably.
Are you being serious or are you screwing with me?
I'm being fairly serious. Yeah. Depends if the angels bring some sort of script that's written in gold ink that says to me that it's going to be really important for people to see. I might continue down the road, but I'm taking a break. I feel like, and this is something you might never hear another celebrity say as long as time exists, I have enough. I've done enough. I am enough.
Jim didn't just act that role, he felt it. Over the years, he started talking differently in interviews, less silly, more serious. He spoke about Hollywood as if he had seen behind a curtain nobody else noticed. He joked about secret clubs. He made uncomfortable comments at award shows. You could see it in his eyes. Something had shifted. And that's where the story starts turning dark. Because when you start speaking too freely in an industry built on image and obedience, things change fast.
Everyone keeps saying he got a facelift, but his facial expressions are literally what made him famous. Why would he mess with the one thing that made him him?
Joe Rogan has built his career on long conversations. No scripts, no teleprompters, just raw talk. On the Joe Rogan Experience, he's hosted fighters, scientists, actors, conspiracy thinkers, everyone. But here's what makes it interesting. Over time, Rogan has hinted at how Hollywood operates behind closed doors. He's talked about how comedians get pressured, how actors are told what to say, how stepping out of line can quietly end you. And then, one episode, during a conversation about powerful industries and the cost of speaking out, he brought up Jim Carrey's transformation, not as a joke, as a warning. He mentioned how Carrey went from being loud, unpredictable, almost rebellious, to suddenly disappearing from the mainstream spotlight. No big roles, no chaotic interviews, just paintings, just calm speeches, just distance.
Even his voice sounds calmer and more restrained. Now listen, I'm not saying anything for sure, but if you have watched him for years, you know what I'm talking about. You cannot tell me something doesn't feel off.
But here's the twist, Rogan said carefully. What if it's not burnout? What if it's pressure? That one sentence sent people spiraling. Because think about it, Jim Carrey once stood on stage at the Golden Globes and mocked the entire idea of Hollywood elites congratulating themselves. He made rooms uncomfortable. He called out meaningless awards. He didn't play the game politely. And in Hollywood, playing the game is survival. What nobody expected was how fast the energy around him shifted.
Jim Carrey's deep brown eyes are one of Hollywood's trademarks, and countless close-up shots have captured their color. However, in the TV footage that night, when the camera zoomed in, his eyes appear to be clear blue.
There were fewer invitations, fewer big projects. The same man who once carried box office hits seemed sidelined. Now, here's where the internet went wild. Fans began pointing out physical differences. They replayed old interviews next to new ones. They zoomed in on eye color. They analyzed hand dominance. They compared smiles. Some said he looked different. Too different. Others said that's just aging. But the timing bothered people. The shift wasn't gradual. It felt sudden.
Walking away was hard. But it was when the Illuminati first started coming after him. And I'll never forget the day when they breached the house and I left. You know, back in that moment, Cat was still wearing Kevlar to bed.
Joe Rogan didn't claim clones. He didn't scream conspiracy. What he did was more subtle. He said something that hit harder. When someone becomes inconvenient, the system doesn't need to kill them. It just needs to neutralize them. Neutralize. That word stuck. Because look at the pattern. When comedians like Dave Chappelle walked away from massive deals, he later admitted something didn't feel right. He left $50 million on the table. That's not normal behavior unless something deeper is happening. When Cat Williams has spoken about Hollywood control, he's described pressure that sounds almost threatening. Different people, same whispers. And then there's Jim, the man who once felt unstoppable, now speaks softly about retiring, about peace, about detachment from identity. On the surface, that sounds spiritual, mature even. But here's the emotional question nobody wants to ask. Was that growth or was that surrender?
They took my face, said Botox, and kept moving. I need that. I need that.
Joe Rogan didn't accuse anyone directly. He simply laid out a pattern. A loud truth teller becomes quiet. A rebel becomes calm. A wild spirit becomes careful. They don't have to replace your body, Rogan said in one discussion. They just replace who you are allowed to be. That line cut deep, because maybe the replacement isn't physical, maybe it's psychological. Imagine being told that everything you worked for can vanish if you don't fall in line. Imagine contracts drying up, friends distancing themselves, phone calls stopping. Hollywood doesn't always slam doors. Sometimes it just slowly locks them one by one until you realize you're standing alone.
The Illuminati is real, and Hollywood is lying to you, trying to distract you from the world's actual problems.
Jim Carrey once said in an interview that Hollywood eats its young. He laughed when he said it, but his eyes didn't. And this is where the emotional weight hits hardest. Think about the young boy living in a van dreaming of making people laugh. Think about the man who bent his body into impossible shapes just to bring joy to strangers. Think about the courage it took to stand in rooms full of powerful people and mock the very system feeding you. That takes bravery, but bravery comes with a cost. After his controversial speeches and bold interviews, Jim faced personal tragedies too. Relationships ended. A lawsuit tied to a former partner haunted headlines. The media turned colder, and during all of that, his public image changed. Calmer, quieter, detached. Joe Rogan didn't say he was cloned. He didn't say he was literally replaced. He asked something more chilling. What if the industry breaks you so thoroughly that the version of you we loved can't survive in it? That's the part people don't want to sit with. Because if that's true, then it means the system doesn't need science fiction. It just needs pressure, isolation, fear. The Jim Carrey who once stormed stages with reckless joy might not have been physically replaced, but maybe he was spiritually silenced. And when fans say he doesn't feel the same, maybe what they're sensing isn't biology. Maybe it's absence. Maybe it's the energy of a man who learned the price of speaking too loudly. Joe Rogan has built his brand on refusing to be told what to think, and by even suggesting that Hollywood has the power to neutralize its own stars, he cracked open a door most celebrities won't touch. Because here's the reality. Careers in entertainment don't just depend on talent, they depend on approval, on staying useful, on not embarrassing the machine. The moment you expose cracks in that machine, you risk becoming expendable, and the emotional toll of that is devastating. Imagine fighting your way out of poverty, becoming one of the highest paid actors alive, then slowly watching the same industry that once celebrated you treat you like a liability. That kind of betrayal changes people. It makes them retreat. It makes them cautious. It makes them tired. So when we see Jim Carrey today, painting in quiet studios, speaking about ego dissolving, smiling gently at cameras, maybe we're not seeing a replacement. Maybe we're seeing survival. But survival sometimes looks like silence, and that's what Joe Rogan was really pointing at. Not a sci-fi swap, not a body double, a warning. The system doesn't need to destroy you loudly. It can reshape you quietly. And once you've seen that pattern, you can't unsee it. Because if someone as powerful, beloved, and financially secure as Jim Carrey could be reduced to whispers and distance after speaking boldly, what does that say about everyone else? That's the thought that lingers. Not fear, not fantasy, just the uncomfortable possibility that in Hollywood, the price of truth is transformation. And sometimes that transformation looks so complete, it feels like replacement. Joe Rogan didn't expose aliens. He exposed vulnerability. He exposed how fragile even the biggest stars can be when they challenge the structure that feeds them. And maybe that's the real story here. Not that Jim Carrey was physically replaced, but that the fearless version of him we once knew may have been forced to step aside, silenced. And in his place stands a quieter man who learned exactly how much noise the system will tolerate. The question isn't whether you believe it. The question is whether you've noticed it too. Because once you start paying attention to how quickly outspoken celebrities fade, once you notice the pattern of rebellion followed by retreat, you begin to understand what Rogan was hinting at. Hollywood doesn't always end you. Sometimes it edits you. And that might be even more terrifying.